Hey, I am Sean, the owner and lead tutor of Math Swap Tutoring. The reason why I'm recording this video is because I wanted to emphasize this. I would have taken studying a lot more seriously in high school before I went to college if I was able to do it again. Now, don't get me wrong, I did study. I studied, especially for certain classes, like trig and calculus, U.S. history, American government, physics, some of those classes like that, maybe my literature class, things like that. But even still, I only studied enough. And the thing is, if you don't have great study habits now, then when you get to college, you might be in for a rude awakening. Okay? Because the thing is, a lot of times, so I did well in school for most of the time I was in school. And so I was accustomed to not really needing that much study. But I can't emphasize enough to you how important it is to develop good study habits, even if you don't really need that much study. So what it may take for you is to really strive to excel and master the material that you're learning in high school. Because here's the thing. When you get to college, you still have teachers, of course. You have professors. And the professors are going to teach the material. But it depends on the professor how well that material is taught. Because some professors, how do I say this? Some professors leave a whole lot up to you. They'll cover it, and I had a couple of professors who were great. The material was more complex, and of course, I was in engineering school, so we had some very complex concepts to cover. But the material was pretty complex. But we had a couple of teachers who were actually great, and they took the time to explain the stuff pretty well, and took questions and whatnot. We had other professors, not just engineering, but also like in our science department and whatnot. Nah, man, they I don't know really what they were doing. They would teach at such a high level, it seemed like they weren't necessarily able to explain or willing, I guess, I don't know, to explain the material in a way that we could understand. And they would sometimes erase notes before we were able to, write them down good and all that kind of stuff. So anyway, I digress. The main thing I'm trying to say is you need to develop good study habits now, even if you feel like you don't need them. So one of the things I did really well is taking notes in general when I was in high school. I did pretty good taking notes, and I would always use my notes while I did like my homework and stuff like that. I have my notes open while I'm doing my homework, and that helped me a lot. That was a habit that I continue into college. But here's a few things that I would do differently before college that I'm encouraging you with right now. Number one, when I got a reading assignment, I would have actually read the reading assignment. Most of the time, did I do that? Absolutely not. I didn't. I didn't even really consider doing it. The couple of times that I did, I noticed the difference. But it was always kind of hard for me to figure out when I was going to make the time to do it. But in retrospect, I know I just didn't make the time to do it. I just made it too difficult. Now, sometimes folks do be assigning way too much reading sometimes. But you can find the time, because if you can find the time to play a video game, or you can find the time, especially in these days, get on your device, you have time to read. So to do that, you need to have like a mindset that is beyond just getting a grade. You need to be like desiring to excel, and also to actually learn the material, to like understand the material. Okay. So if you really want to understand and you're curious about the material, it's going to take away some of that just get the grade kind of mindset. So the other thing I would do is I would make sure that I was doing my homework. Okay. I did my homework in college, but I didn't always finish it. And again, some of that was due to poor time management, just not making the time to finish. Okay. Bad excuse, but just being transparent, because I want to help you. If you're watching this right now, you're a high schooler, maybe even a middle schooler. So I would have did that. The third thing I would have done is I would have done beyond the homework. So the books have the problems maybe that the teacher assigns you and whatnot, but they also have other problems, okay? They have other problems that the teacher has not assigned. So you don't just have to do the homework. If you really want to succeed and excel, then you do beyond the homework. And for some reason, a lot of times I just didn't think that way. But again, if you really want to excel, you want to master the material, you have a curiosity about the material, you'll go beyond just trying to get the grade. Okay? Again, maybe some of it is the way that we do in high school, the way we're taught to learn. But I'm just kind of trying to help you to change the way that you think about school. These are things that I would have done that I hope I would do differently. And then the last thing, one of the most important things for sure. Number 4, I would have asked more questions. Even with the professors who didn't necessarily teach the best in college, I noticed that if you were willing to make the time to come to their office during their office hours, then they would be a lot of times a lot more willing to help you than you would think. So a lot of times we make teachers out to be these very intimidating, cold-hearted figures who want to see you fail. But that's often not necessarily the case. And when you actually come to their office, I think they begin to feel a certain type of way about you, in the sense of they see that you are going further to get an understanding of the material. And a lot of times they're actually pretty happy to explain it to you beyond what you do. Beyond what they teach in the classroom. I would have asked more questions. A lot of times I allowed myself to be intimidated, but then especially when class got really tough, I learned to ask more questions. But I still would have I would have asked even more questions in retrospect, because again, I know I still allowed myself to be intimidated, and I would have this mindset like, I should know this. I should be able to figure this out. And sometimes I would even see some of my classmates who had the appearance of understanding. I don't know if they really did or not, but they had the appearance of understanding. And so I would let that intimidate me. Okay, so those are the 4 things I would do. I read the material, I complete all the homework, I would go beyond the homework, and then I would ask more questions. And the last thing I'll say is this. Now, this wasn't really helpful for me, but it might be helpful for you. Study groups. Sometimes people thrive from like having meetings with your fellow peers where you all come and study together. You do your homework together and stuff like that. That worked for some people. What they had, what's it called? Supplemental instruction, I want to say, in college, when groups of students would meet with one student and do stuff together. That doesn't work for me personally, because I'm more so like an independent studier, and I would find those type of environments kind of distracting. To kind of have so many people together, even if we're being productive, it'd be a little bit distracting to me. Just because I do prefer to work alone in that way. But you kind of have to know yourself for that. So if you're somebody that will work for you, but then by all means, go for it. But be honest. Make sure that whenever you're thinking about that, you're not actually thinking about, you think that you would actually do well in that environment, but in actuality, it would just be a social club and you just be in there fooling around, doing a whole lot of talking and all that kind of stuff, not getting anything done, okay? So I hope this helps you. Please take this to heart. Please. I'm not just saying this just because I want to put a video up. I really want those of you who watch this video to learn from my experience, from some of my mistakes, my observations and whatnot. But again, like I tell people a lot of times, you can get all the knowledge in the world, but it won't help you unless you actually apply it. Otherwise it's going to take up space in your head. It's not going to make any difference in your life, even though it could make a world of difference, okay? So I hope you take that seriously, and definitely best wishes to you. Shoot for the stars. Do your best. In a nutshell, it really all amounts to that. You need to do your best, okay? All right, y'all.